Hello. Welcome to the Green Space. How many of you are here for the first time ever? Wow, almost everybody. How awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight and spending this beautiful holiday evening with us. Also, happy Pride. How are you all doing? I feel like you're already. There you go. I was like, I feel like you're already in screening mode. We're going to get there in just a moment. So, are any of you members of WNYC or WQXR? A few? Okay, great. So just want to let you know the Green Space, what we do here is connected to New York Public Radio. So when you listen to WNYC or WQXR or you read Gothamist, that's all us. So everything that we do is supported by members, by the public, or publicly funded. So appreciate your support and tune in, come back. That's my big ask of you. Please do come back, especially if you're here for the first time. My small ask of you is could you silence your phones if you haven't already done that, just so it doesn't disrupt the talkback or the screening. Now I'm very honored to finally have this collaboration with Translash happening in the Green Space, because some of you might know that we in 2020 did an entire year of monthly digital events with Translash when Amara Jones was our journalist in residence here, our first and so far only journalist in residence here in the Green Space. So having her here in person finally on our stage is really, really awesome. I'm getting all verklempt just saying. So I'm really honored to be able to introduce her. She's an Emmy and Peabody Award-winning creator of Translash Media, named one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people of 2023, and her groundbreaking work in journalism and narrative has profoundly shifted the cultural landscape for transgender individuals in the US. So please join me in welcoming a true trailblazer and advocate for equality, Amara Jones.
Y'all came. Thanks. First of all, I just wanted to let you all know that, of course, tonight we are encouraging you to get the word out on social media about this event. So this is the hashtag that you should use. It's long, but it also captures the name of the show. So make sure that you use that in everything that you do. I also have a bit of housekeeping that I have to do at every single event, or else I get reprimanded by our social media team. And that is to encourage everyone to sign up for our Translash newsletter. So if you go to translash.org, it's pretty easy to figure it out. Go sign up for our newsletter. It really is worth your time once a week. You'll see all the things that we have going on at Translash, but more importantly, it's a great way to stay informed about the trans community, including anti-trans legislation. So make sure that you go do that. Okay, now I've done my homework. I can start talking about the things I want to talk about. Today is Juneteenth, and one of the most important things about Juneteenth, and the reason why it's a celebration, is because it marks the time when the last enslaved people of African descent in the United States learned that they were free. We don't celebrate the first day that enslaved Africans were free. We don't celebrate the Emancipation Proclamation. We celebrate the last day that enslaved people were free. And the reason why that is a very simple notion and a very real thing, and a deep understanding that enslaved people know and understood, which is that no one is free until everybody is free. There's no such thing as freedom for part of us. There has to be freedom for everybody. And what I think is so powerful about the three stories that you all are going to hear tonight is that Breonna and Kayla and Alushi live that principle of Juneteenth every single day of their lives. They have devoted themselves and continue to devote themselves to that simple understanding that until the most marginalized people are able to be free, no one is free. And so it is fitting that we are doing this screening tonight with them centering their stories on Juneteenth. So let's just give them a round of applause even before you see it. It is fitting that this event is here because, as Jen said, we wanted to be doing this once a month for over a year, and we had grand plans to do so. But then the pandemic arrived and changed all of our plans, but in so many ways opened up so many powerful conversations that we wouldn't have been able to have people if we had only centered Lives at Stake here in New York. There are certain people in the room who were in Lives at Stake, but we were able to include people like Cecilia, who is no longer with us, was also a part of that, and Elisa Crespo when she was running for city council, and so many other voices. And so I'm glad that we can finally come back full circle and be here together in this space. For those of you all who don't know, Translash is a narrative change organization where we use the power of journalism and nonfiction storytelling to center the humanity of trans people, understanding that the violence against our community in all of its forms, the ways in which people are targeting us, comes down to the fact that people don't see us as human. And so we want to correct that as an organization. And we try to do that in as many ways as possible. We do so through written articles, and we do that through films, such as the one you're going to see tonight. We do so through zines, and we do so through not one, but now 3 podcasts. It started essentially in similar ways that you're going to see tonight, where in 2018, I was encouraged by some of my colleagues who are journalists to tell my story about what it was like to be trans during the Trump era, kind of the first wave of being targeted. And the first thing that I said was, no one's gonna care about that. And when I heard myself say those words, I immediately knew 2 things. I knew that one, that wasn't what I actually believed, because I had spent my entire life understanding the power of story and its ability to change and to motivate. And secondly, I knew that if that was an unheard thought that I had in myself, that there were others who thought the same thing. And if that were the case, that was the predicate for us to be harmed. And so I called in a favor from a friend of mine who worked on reality television in Atlanta, and we essentially traveled the country for a year doing the first docuseries for Translash, which remains among some of our most watched videos, even as they are 6 years old. But what eventually started with no money and a called-in favor, even the first logo was a bootleg design that he called in a favor from his friend that on the show who owed him a favor. It was the whole thing. Has now grown into a team of people across the country who help to produce the award-winning content that you all see all the time. And many of those team members are here, and you should get to know them. If you're a Translash team member, if you ever worked with Translash, just raise your hand in some way. See, there are a lot of and these are a smattering of some of the awards that we've gotten, and maybe after tonight and after this film comes out next week, there'll be some more. We'll add to the list. Thank you. You can clap for those awards. But a great way to learn about all of the things that Translash is doing is in our brand new, as of today, website, which launched, which not only is an easy way for you to be able to see our array of content, but we also launched a new trans legislation dashboard, which makes it really easy for non-experts to at a glimpse see what's going on with anti-trans legislation, what's going on in your state. And we did that in partnership with the Trans Legislation Tracker. So we're thrilled to be able to do that. So there's lots of content, lots of capabilities. So make sure you go to translash.org as of today to see our new, but just not right now, later on. Don't get distracted, to see all of the things that we are doing. So that then brings us to how we are all here tonight. And essentially, what happened is that during the George Floyd uprising in 2020, Time Magazine wanted to do an entire issue which was devoted to reimagining America, right? What would a new American revolution look like? And my name is one of those names on the cover who was asked to reimagine what that looks like. And for me, I wrote a piece. No, that's wrong. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, sorry. We did go through this before because we're professionals. Okay, well, the next slide isn't the next slide. Nope, nope, that got changed. Okay, so it got changed. We'll just leave this here for a minute. In this particular Time magazine, I wrote a piece about the vision and the power of Black trans people. And the necessity of centering Black trans visions in a new America. That there was essentially no way for us to reimagine society without the contributions of Black trans people, because when you live in a society that's not working for you, that makes you the perfect person, the perfect people to reimagine what that society would look like. And that if you could redesign that society to work for the people that it's not functioning for, that means you could build a society that works for everyone. Right? It removes us from a zero-sum conversation and expands the idea of what's possible. Now, for the next 3 years, people would ask me in various places, what do you think is the most underreported story with trans people? And I would always say, I think it is the leadership and the vision of Black trans people working to transform their communities one at a time. And I would say it in so many times, in many ways, because I had the hope that someone else was going to do the story. You know, like as a journalist, like I don't always feel like I have to tell every single story. It's great if other people pick up these stories and tell them and see them in other places. So I said it on NPR, not once, but twice. I said it on the PBS NewsHour. I said it on MSNBC. I said it a bunch. And I kept thinking that like some enterprising journalists, because journalists are always looking for new stories to cover, were going to like dig deep and find the leaders that I was referencing and do an amazing story. But at some point I realized that that wasn't going to happen. And it was a story that I believed was essential to be told. And so once I get certain ideas in my head, I am annoying and I don't stop. And so I didn't stop. So I got this idea and I went first to a bunch of people that I knew, finally had a good hearing at the WNET group. And you know, like all these meetings, when you go in and pitch something, the first meeting is, yeah, okay, you know, like, but I kept going back and kept going back. And finally they said, all right, well, the only way to stop you from being annoying is to say that we'll work with you on it. And we did. And then worked really hard to find stories that we thought were emblematic of this particular phenomenon. And that's how it, logically, we landed on the three people stories who are you going to hear tonight. And then we went out and worked with and found the right partners to be able to work with us to produce that. Naz and then Tyler, whose names you will see in the credits and who deserves so much of the credit for realizing this particular vision. And then we set out across the country to make this film, you know, literally like I did for myself, being trailed by a camera and asking people to tell their stories. So that's why we are here tonight. And what we are going to do is to listen to the really powerful visions of these three people that if our country actually adopted, if they were taken to scale, would be transformative. And so without further ado, I want to show you for the very first time in the world, American Problems, Trans Solutions, focusing on Kayla Gore, Oluchi Amioga, and Brianna McReed. So as they get settled, I wanted to do two things, which is to first welcome everyone who is joining us on the live stream for the Green Space and also on Translash YouTube pages. You all were not able, sadly, to see the film, but you will be able to see it on June 24th, so next week, at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but check your local listing, as they say, because it'll change. It is being broadcast through our broadcast partner, PBS World, who this would not be possible without them opening and providing millions of viewers to us. And so actually the head of PBS World is in the audience, Chris Hastings. So I just wanted to thank them, to thank Chris. Chris came down from Boston, but anytime anyone from Boston comes from New York, you know they are willing to do it. Sorry, Boston. Sorry, Boston. And secondly, I just wanted to let you all know that as well, each of you has a copy of the Translash zine on your seats. That it just came out today. It's our latest zine, and it's uplifting. Again, the voices and the stories of Black trans people, specifically Black trans femmes in the arts. Everyone online, you can go online to translash.org/zines, and you can actually read it online. So you're not being excluded by not being here for that. Thank you all so much. I want to know what it is like for you all to see yourselves up there. Because I don't know how you feel, but mostly my days are, answering emails and having to return calls, and I'm running late, and I'm in the drudgery of the work. I shouldn't say drudgery, but I'm in the details of the work. Is it drudgery? Okay, I'm in the details. Okay, it is. It's another, my Slack messages are pinging and I'm annoyed. So that's where I am most of the day. I'm not thinking about all the things that we're doing, but I'm wondering if taking a step back, how you all see yourselves and your work. We can play jump ball. Who wants to go first?
I can say for me, first I just want to say thank you. Can we give it up to Amara Jones for putting this together, for bringing us all together? Yeah, amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing. I would say for me, stepping back from the depths of the work and watching it invigorates me to continue to do this work. I remember calling you just about a week ago saying, I am tired of this. I am done with this work. I am through with this people. But watching this gives, this is what I do. Because in the work, you lose exactly what you do because you're just in the bowels of it.
That's right.
But to see it and reimagine, this is what I do. Okay, yes, I'm going to continue to do this. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I feel really similarly. Transparent moment, I hate watching myself on TV. This is the first time I've ever seen that. I made it a point because I was like, I do not like seeing myself. But I'm also very grateful for just seeing all of the things, not only that I've done, but my comrades on the stage have also done. Right? I've been working with Kayla for 6 years now, and I know about My Sister's House, and I know the impact that they've had, but just watching it, I'm like, damn, she's really putting in that work. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear on PBS. Dang. But actually putting in that work, and just the brilliance of Black trans leadership. I know it theoretically, but to see it is something that we're not really shown, which is another reason why I'm so grateful. These are three of hundreds of people, right? There are Black trans leaders in this room that I know do amazing work, right. But we're not visibilized in the ways that we should be. So yeah, feeling surreal, but also very humbled right now. Just yeah.
In short, just everything that these two wonderful people said. But it also is a moment for me just to like really to celebrate. It's celebratory when we get to join in spaces like this. I've come all the way from Memphis, Tennessee to New York City. And like the red carpet has been laid out because of the work that you've done, which is not something that Black trans people from the South really get to experience. So being able to see us on the big screen is amazing. And then the impact stories that you got from our residents, like we don't do a lot of that. So hearing it for the first time from a resident is like, it's like music to my ears. Like we're really getting it right. So, yeah.
I mean, I say all the time. First of all, Lucien, you're saying that you're like, you know, experiencing humility. I don't see how you can be humble in this outfit. Like, have you all seen that?
Everyone on stage got the memo, but Kayla. You know, it was supposed to be hues of red, but you know, we can Photoshop. We can Photoshop something.
I mean, Kayla and Brianna, like that makes sense to me. You know what I mean? Like they're always gonna do this, but I've never seen you like this. You have?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a Leo, so
yeah.
I'm always on 10.
Okay.
With the Libra-izing, so the aesthetics are
important. Okay, good to know. Good to know.
He left a part of it in the audience.
Part of it's. I always say that one of the things that happens with stories is that the stories that we tell actually are one of the ways that we signify who matters in the country, right? Mm-hmm. Like the stories that get told are the ones that we think are important, right? We always hear about George Washington. We never hear about the people that he enslaved or the people in the Continental Army who he betrayed, right? Yeah. Who were Black and promised all sorts of things. So, there's the stories that we tell shape what we say is important. And one of the things that can happen is skepticism. Like when someone comes on your door and is like, hey, I want to tell your story, right? Even if they're Black and trans, you'll be like, well, what are you going to say? What are you going to do? And I'm wondering, like, what led you to say, I'm going to go with this? I'm going to trust my story with someone else. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that, like, there's so many ways in which there's a sense of betrayal, right? Mm-hmm. And that we can carry from our lives. And so I'm wondering how did trust come up in this for you?
For me, coming from a national organization working with Aluche at the Transgender Law Center, and having a comms team and having them vet different media outlets before we give them our stories or tell them our nit-grit of the work that we're doing. We didn't have to do that because we knew that it was coming from good stuff. We knew it was coming from people who are familiar with our experiences in life and how we experience life. So I don't think it was let me vet these people. I knew of Translash, I knew of you, and I knew of PBS. Of course, I grew up on that. It was like the freest television ever. So.
I mean, it had the electric company and Sesame Street.
Exactly. So yeah.
It was so funny though, because I remember vividly like the back and forth that was happening because like Shelby actually texted me and Shelby was like, you need to talk to Amara. I was like, I didn't get a call from Amara. And then eventually we like got connected and it wasn't necessarily like a trusting and like you telling the story. For me, it was more so like, why do you want me? I was like, there are so many other Black trans leaders here doing amazing work. I was like, I think you were mistaking me with Ola. I think that you want, and then you're like, no, it's like we want you. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, it was less about trusting you because I already knew around like all of the amazing documentaries that you did and the amazing narrative shift work that you've done. It was mainly like, I think you're looking for the wrong person. You're looking for the wrong nigga, and it's not me. It might be someone else, but I think that like once you were like, no, like we want you, then there was like a retrusting in myself and my own leadership that I had to do. I think another really vulnerable moment was like my family being in the documentary, and just like trusting like that was like another hurdle for me, because like my organizing work and my personal work usually is very siloed, and so like that was like one of the first instances that it was kind of like a come together moment, and also a moment in which like my family got to hear about the work that I do in a way that's not just like I'm on MSNBC or Fox News and someone's yelling at me because I'm in the middle of a street. So
I mean, also, I mean, I mean, especially for the two people on the ends, but for all of you, we got very intimate, right? We're in your mama's house. We're in your house. We are hearing stories of you from, you know, remembrances that are extremely intimate. We're literally in your parents' house and your house. It's, you know, it's an intimate process. So, yeah, I just want to express appreciation because we can only show as good a story as y'all allow us to show, right? And you allowed us to show some really good stories. So audience, I'm gonna, this is your cue to think of your questions. We're gonna take a few questions from the audience in a second. This would be my last question. So I'm telling y'all so that when we don't want that awkward moment when I'm like, what's the question? And everyone's like, okay. So we already had the awkward moment. It was just then. So right now when I say, you're gonna have your question. We're in an election year, and there's not an issue that you all are working on that isn't in the center of this particular campaign. And I'm wondering if you had an ability to call the people that are running together for office in a room. If they invited you and said, what is the thing that I should know about what your community is facing from your vantage point and the thing that I should do about it? What would you say? And let's start with you, Kayla, and go down the list.
Oh, you put me in the hot seat. Okay.
Y'all are doing really well. I didn't tell you these questions, so you're doing quite well, I have to say.
Right. So I would definitely, we just got a new mayor, Mayor Paul Young, and we've been included in their budget as far as transitional housing funding goes. So I would definitely hone in on, hey, you've given us a little bit. Now we need more. We've shown you what we can do in 1 year with a couple $100,000. Now let us show you what we can do. Like we can really, really flex out. So I definitely would push the issue around housing policies and funding.
Right.
Yeah. More availability of HUD funding for specific LGBT, trans-specific housing is related to emergency, transitional, and permanent housing. There's funding already allocated federally, but it doesn't really make it to organizations that are led by Black and brown trans people.
Right.
Whether that's because of capacity issues, whether that's because of language barriers or disability issues or barriers, we just don't feel into receiving that money. We have to find it other places like we did at my sister's house, which is through mutual aid, through people knowing people and saying, hey, these people are worthy of your support down there in the South. So I would definitely push toward more federal, state, and local policies around funding and housing.
Yeah, we're showing you what you can do with a couple of $100,000 to how about a couple of million is what you're saying.
That's why our next project is.
I mean, fundamentally, also like the idea of the way that you instantly remove barriers to housing as ownership, like you instantly creating wealth by saying, actually, here's a house and here's land. And I always think that that's because it totally shifted my own point of view as like, well, why do we have this process of essentially making it hard for people to be housed and to own? That's a choice. And I think that your program shows that.
I agree. Like we modeled our emergency shelter off a Housing First model, and I feel like we've created a whole new model for how we house people through our transitional and permanent housing. Through the tiny houses, it's like people have a million questions, and I'm like, oh, these are all good questions, but the answer is still like, yeah, it's very low barrier, no deposits, no. Some things I can't say because of insurance reasons. But yeah, there's a lot of things that are typically done when people are leasing spaces or buying properties or land that we do not put people through. We don't ask a lot of invasive questions about income or income verification. It's a really, I wish I had the process. I also wish I had a nice home. For a lot of folks, it's their first place by themselves. And they're, like you can see, you saw, they're really, really nice homes. And trans people, we really don't get that experience in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Brianna, what would you say?
I would put them all in the room and say you're the problem. I would say yes, because they are. I would say your patriarchal systems are the problem that is killing America, that is killing the land that we're on. But I would also say, if you were able to shift the foundation for the most marginalized people, let me give you a blueprint on how to do that. Because if you shift that foundation for us, then that lifts the foundation for everyone else. So, I mean, because with our program today, we have created almost 60 new entrepreneurs. Yes. We are working with the city to put them in pop-up shops all over the Bay Area. We are working with another project to actively put them in storefronts in the Tenderloin and beyond. And with extra funding, we could fill the vacant storefronts in San Francisco. Nordstrom's, which is one of the biggest is in one of the biggest malls in San Francisco. Through our entrepreneurship program, we could fill that space in Nordstrom's with trans and non-binary folks. That would be transformative. In San Francisco, a space that really, it says that we are a safe space for you. Come to us. We are your sanctuary city. Let me help you make this a sanctuary city for our most marginalized folks. Because it looks good for you as well. But it also helps us create ownerships in business, because we've learned once we get in the door, then we hire each other. And we make space for more of us to come in. And I love how you said the Underground Railroad to the houses, because we all are creating an Underground Railroad for Black and brown trans people. Let's continue that. But definitely they are still the problem.
Well, what's not the problem are your shoes. They're fabulous. Kayla's dressed your shoes, absolutely. What would you say? I mean, especially now, there's so much going on. I mean, I'm being euphemistic, but there's so much going on with immigration just in the past week. And one of the things that we didn't necessarily get to talk about is the way in which you personally, right, sometime, and other people in BLMP get calls in the night of Black and brown trans people who are trapped on the other side of the border, because the border is now the only way to get into the United States, and have to try to bring them across using asylum laws. So there's so much going on just in your area right now. What would you say?
Yeah, definitely ditto. I think too, I've personally just been very unenthused about federal immigration policy in general, but I think the United States, Western powers have to be responsible for forced migration, period. Yeah. The reason why people are leaving their homelands is not because they want to leave their homelands. If you live in an island, why would you want to leave that? People are leaving their homelands because of Christian imperialism, because of patriarchy, gender-based violence, homophobia, transphobia. And so because you are the cause of that problem, you need to be responsible for the solution. And what the United States is doing in this moment is the exact opposite. We didn't really talk about like what asylum looks like, but regardless if it's a Democrat or Republican in office, immigrants specifically will always be the first people that they attack. And so the solution for that is, one, get rid of detention. A lot of folks don't understand that if you present yourself and you seek asylum, you are automatically detained for an indefinite amount of time, meaning that you are put in an immigrant prison. Get rid of detention for all folks who are seeking asylum. I think the other thing that some folks don't really conceptualize is, even when we think about these social services, that we want folks to have homes, we want folks to have economic freedom, that does not exist if you are not a citizen of the United States. If you are undocumented or underdocumented, you do not receive those same social services. And you might not even have a working document or a travel document, so you can't even travel to see someone that might be dying in your home country. And so why are there restrictions on folks who are coming here because of the different tactics that we have used, while then restricting their migration even within the United States? So just shifting our narrative on what that looks like when we think about immigrants and migrant folks.
Thank you for that. Questions? Oh, there's one question in the back.
Thanks for sharing your stories. I wanted to ask, what common personal themes or struggles do you see that Black trans leaders experience that don't normally get represented or shared?
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
absolutely. What common personal themes or struggles do you see Black trans leaders experience that don't normally get represented or shared?
Yeah. Your struggles as leaders that don't get uplifted and shared.
I don't want to say our struggles because I feel like our struggles are always shared. That's why the work was created, because of our struggles and our disparities. What doesn't get shared is the way we create community, the way we love on each other, the way we create families, the way, like, when we're in the streets, how we come together to survive in the streets. I was on the streets for 5 years, and I created family on the streets. I met a woman that saved my life on the streets. Those are the stories that need to be shared. I'm not gonna cry, I got on lashes.
Too late. You already cried.
But those are the stories that need to be shared.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. We share a lot and we go to therapy afterwards and sometimes before. And then sometimes in that moment, that is therapy for us to be able to share like things that have transgressed us throughout our lives. But I would like to see more moments of joy and liberation, because we talk about getting there, but there are moments of joy and there are moments of liberation that we really don't get to relish in. This is one of those moments. So I think like having this broadcasted is another moment of like sharing that. Like, we're not just like look at us. We fine and fly up here. So it's not all bad. I said that to say it's not all bad. We really do get to enjoy our lives, and we get to see people enjoying their lives and their lives changing. Like your story about Dolores, like that moved me, and then hearing that you're paying it forward to other people and giving them an opportunity, not just giving them words of encouragement, but you're giving them words of encouragement, and there are tangible things attached to those words, which makes a whole heck of a difference. Yeah.
Yes, right here.
So first of all, I think that there could be a film about each of you, and I hope that there is someday, because the way the film was done was so well done, it leaves me wanting more, you know. Specifically, I'm so curious about like where you said there's over $500,000 in grants given out, and I think that was in the movie.
For Brianna's, yeah.
Yeah. Where did that come from? Is that from the city budget?
Yeah, that's from the city and county of San Francisco. And I have to say, thanks to Mayor Breed, our city mayor in San Francisco, she really invests in the economic empowerment and ending trans homelessness. She really puts her money where her mouth is when it comes to investing in the uplifting of trans and non-binary people in San Francisco. We just recently passed a bill saying that San Francisco is now a sanctuary city on paper, and we are the only city that has a Transgender History Month that is recognized in the state of California due to Mayor Breed and Jupiter Peraza of the Transgender District.
One last question we have time for. Yep, right here.
What can the rest of us do to help?
Money, 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 money.
Period.
Support the work that we do.
Yeah.
If you can't donate money to the cause, uplift and amplify our stories. Share them on social media. More visibility means more eyes on the things that we do for the people that we serve.
I would also say, like, research the different movements that we are coming from, like what locally is happening in terms of housing for trans people where you live, what is happening as far as economic liberation, what is happening on the immigration front, because I think that one thing is the funding piece, but I think that there needs to be more collective political education around all of the things that are happening, so that when we do have a moment where there's like a mobilization, folks are more versed and more like, they're more privy to what's going on, and they understand the fights and the local movements that are moving that work.
I would agree with what both of them said. In addition to like people power, we are building houses, and a lot of times it takes people and a community to help people get acclimated to home ownership. And that can look like cutting grass, helping them build a fence, like fixing things around their homes. We have people who are 76 years old in some of our homes. So just, just checking in on them and making sure that they're not isolated in their new home. So I think we really look for a lot of volunteers. I know y'all are up here in New York, but if you got an auntie or cousin that's down there in the South and they coming through Memphis, tell them to look us up, hit us up, and, stop by. I will always have some outdoor work for you to do.
It's
I
true.
didn't get this tan.
It's absolutely true.
I didn't get this tan for nothing, so. And it wasn't on a beach.
It's absolutely true. Yeah, I mean, I would also say that it's just also extremely important to think that, one, trans people are important.
Yes.
Like, that's a thing that most people don't think about, but it actually, once you accept that, it shifts things. And I also think understanding the centrality of trans lives to this moment and to this election, I would also add to that. I think that that's a really important thing to hold on to as well. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to invite you to hang around for the next half an hour or so. The drinks are on us outside. There's an open bar. There's also a step and repeat where you can take pictures of yourself, of the people who are in the film, with each other. We would love for you all to do that. Please make sure that you use the hashtag American Problems Trans Solutions. And remember to watch on the 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern. But if you're out beyond the East Coast, check your local listing because it changes station to station. Check your local PBS listing. And thank you all so much for coming, and happy Juneteenth and happy Pride.
Happy Juneteenth.
We're going to go back to this one and go around.